St. Louis, Missouri, United States, native, born and raised, born to a family, loving family, filled with musicians all across. My father is a musician, my grandfather was a musician, or he is a musician rather still, and they trained and taught me a lot of different things, and I've learned a lot of things from other people that I've came across, a lot of big influences in my life, and a lot of them are in St. Louis, and a lot of them are a lot out of St. Louis. So I grew up, at a young age. I started playing drums when I was about 1 year old, and I just basically started, learning songs, listening to music. I used to come home from school every day, and I would get my work done on the bus just so that way I could get home, put on some headphones, and get on those drums and beat those drums until it was time for dinner. I had a social life. I liked to go outside and play, but I really didn't play outside as much. I spent most of my time inside, basically just trying to learn music. It was around the age of probably 6 or 7 when I really started to write songs, and I had wrote songs like ever since, and I had so many songs that I wrote. A lot of songs I lost the lyrics for. I couldn't, it was on an old IBM computer, and I had the 5 1/4 floppy disks, 2 of those, one on one side, one on the other side, and I used to have a bunch of those, and I'd save lyrics on those way even before Windows came out. And then Windows came out, and then we got a fancier computer, and I was able to save some things on there. I started recording songs around the time when I started learning piano, or learning to play piano, and that started around the age of 8 or 9. And at this point in time, like I said, my dad was a guitar player, he was a keyboard player, he played drums, he played bass, he played pretty much it all. So I would always be sitting in the band sessions and watching them rehearse, and this is how I really absorbed the music. So my dad had this Alesis MMT-8. It was a sequencer. Back in the day, the multi-track kind of started to come out, but it hadn't really came out yet. You could do it, in a for real studio, but for us having it at home, your personal studio, it was somewhat unheard of. But this MMT-8 was an 8-track sequencer that allowed you to, send your MIDI signal in and record your keyboards and, your keyboard bass and keep, your drum sounds and stuff like that. He also had a Tascam 4-track, and he had an 8-track recorder. And those allowed you to record audio, via multiple tracks. So that was pretty cool. So at this point in time, I had took out this Alesis, and my dad used to program a lot of songs, and he put all his original music in there. So he had them all saved to a disc. And I can't remember what song it was. I want to say it was a song called Life is Just a Dream, which is a song that my dad wrote. And you can find it on his album. I think the album be under Andre Williams, or he might have changed the name now, but his artist name now is Big Dre WMS, and you can find it under the album Jesus Our Savior. But on that album, Life is Just a Dream was a really cool song, and it had a lot of chord changes. And I remember I fell in love with the song, like when my dad wrote it. I can't remember if I was born yet, but I might have been born when he wrote it, but I just remember that I wanted to learn that song. And so what I did is I took it and I sat down with this MMT-8. And MMT-8, it had this function in there called like an event list. It was an event list where you could look at the notes, and it would tell you the note, the pitch name, and the octave that it was in. So like if it was C#7, that's really high, so it's C#7, and then it'll tell you the time frame that it occurred at. So it can be beat 4, beat 4, and it'll be like 4/240, and 4/240, 240 was like a 16th note, so to let you know it falls on that note. Now, so what I did was I just took the notes, and each note was written out separately, and then you can tell when they form a chord because they all fell on the same beat. So if they all fell 4:00000, that means it all fell on beat 4. And it might have been measure 1, so it might be measure 1, 04:000, etc., etc., etc. Just like you do when you're a digital audio workstation. So I was able to find out when the chords land, and then I can see each note. So this is how I learned. It wasn't even by ear. I hadn't really developed my ear. I developed my ear for singing, but not really for like hearing it on the piano. But I took that, and I knew my notes on the keyboard. So that was the first step, knowing your notes on the piano. And I took it and I learned each chord, and then I probably worked on it maybe a few days. And then my dad always tells the story how he finally came home one day and I was playing his song and he had never taught it to me. So the song had a lot of chord changes to it, but I learned it. And from there, I started fiddling around with the keyboard, learning different chords, and I started writing music to my own stuff. And then I really started recording my stuff like when I was around 12, like 11 or 12 years old. I used to come home from school. I was in middle school then, and I used to just go straight to trying to record. So I came up with all these songs. Just trying to look at my phone and see if there's anybody in the room. Oh, hey, Meadow was in here. Meadow, thank you for sending some love. I know I'm not singing right now, so as you're coming in the room, if you come in the room, I just want to talk first. So I started writing my own songs and I started recording them, and it was probably when I got to my early years in high school that I really started like trying to work on a project. And I recorded these songs that I kind of started, and I was heavy into gospel. That's all I really did was gospel music. I played other music, but for my own writing, I only wrote gospel music. And then I started recording this stuff, and some of the songs, I kept playing with them, but I never released them. And so now I've got to re-record them because it was on older software. I lost a lot of that stuff, but I still have the ideas in my head, and I still have the MIDI for them, which makes it easier, so that way I can, still record them and duplicate them the way I had intentionally. And then they'll be better now because I know a lot more stuff now. So another thing that I did was when I got to my end years of high school, of course, I learned theory, I learned how to read music, I learned a lot more stuff, and that helped out as far as understanding. I got to college. When I got to college, I really got heavy into writing again, writing and orchestrating stuff, and I love using Finale. I like Sibelius as well, but I like Finale. And I would use Finale, and I would go on there and I would make all these projects that we had to turn in for my classes. I would make these songs, and I made a few jazz tunes, and we had this assignment in this songwriting class. It was songwriting. I think it was just called songwriting. And I remember the instructor, Professor Melissa Bishop. And if you ever watch this, thank you so much for that class. It was such a wonderful class. We talked about lyrics. We talked about rhyme scheme. We talked about being intentional in your writing and trying to write clever, not just using your everyday jargon, your everyday words, but trying to be clever about portraying your message. And we talked about writing from different perspectives, which is something I think is really helpful in songwriting, is that knowing that, yes, some of the greatest songs are songs that are, true stories, and it might not be for the person themselves that writes the song, but it might be something that they experience from another person, like a friend or a family member goes through this and you want to write about it. But also you have those times when you want to write about something and it might not be something that you even know about. Like, it might just be something that is universal, like a breakup. If you're writing a breakup song, maybe you've never been through a breakup before, but you've seen it on TV. Maybe you come across an associate. They might not be your friend, but they're an associate and they went through a breakthrough. And you just happen to hear about it through the grapevine, and all of a sudden you decided to write a song about it. It can be the feeling, the emotions that we feel, like, the experience of love. Maybe you haven't fell in love with someone yet. You love your family, you love your, your friends, you love your mom, your dad, maybe, but you haven't had that strong connection with, someone else that could be a potential spouse for you. But you still write about love. And so we, songwriters, we try to learn how to write from different perspectives, and we try to write on a universal spectrum. So, some songs will be specific to you. Like, for instance, I have a song called Song of Praise. And even though it's specific to me, some parts in there aren't universal. So, if you a person that got to that point where you felt sad and you felt depressed, and maybe you was taken away from your family, and maybe you were, you were in foster care, and you go through a situation like that, you can probably relate to that song, because that's what that song deals with. But it also is a celebration, and it's a lifting up God with a song of praise, to let God know that, without you, this wouldn't be possible. Without you, I would have never came out of that situation. So I don't know why I'm being led this way, but I just want to talk first. And I know some of you all are in the room now. I'm looking at my phone, which is to the right. Buckstar, Ander, Hard Mike, join. Thank you so much for joining. This is Vibe Check. I was just doing some talking. I'm just talking about a little bit about my history. I promise I will do some singing as well. If you got any song requests, you can put them in. I'm just talking about, my history, just letting you all know that this is me. So on this is Vibe Check. Vibe Check, I'm going to keep it real. Sometimes I'm going to sing, and in between singing, I might do talking. I love to talk, but I love to listen. So if you have comments, you got questions or anything like that you want to put in the chat, definitely do that. If you're watching this, later on or something like that, because I think I'm going to record it and post it on somewhere, I don't know, YouTube or something like that. But if you're there and you happen to see or hear anything, please feel free to comment. Make sure you follow me on my social media. It's all up there. JustDaNorm, YouTube, JustDaNorm Facebook, JustDaNorm for TikTok. It's JustDaNorm for Instagram. If you see stars hanging around, they just floating. I'm wishing on a star. Every show I'm wishing on a star. So grab this star, send it my way. If you want to throw me a cool, this is Cool Love. This is the month of cool, March. So if you want to throw me a cool, or you want to throw me any type of love, I thank you for it. My love quest goal for this session is 1,000. I'm going to be on here for a while. I'll be on here until probably about 3:30. So I'm going to be here a while. We're going to have a lot of time to have some fun, do some songs, take some requests, hopefully, maybe. So let's get into it.